All right. All right, y'all. Waiting for my man Perez to come in. He said he's on his way. So, well, shit, ain't none of y'all here anyway. So, give it a minute. Ay, Dios mío. Mm. Ew. Why the fuck am I beatboxing right now? All right. Y'all come on in. Come on in. We live. We are live. About to talk some training day, yo. It's about to go down. I got one person in the house. All right, Perez, where you at, man? You said logging in. That was 2 minutes ago. Well, anyways, Perez is on his way. So if y'all just tuning in, yo, Mike, what's good, fam? What's good with you? It's waiting on Perez to come in, man. He on Black people time right now. So real quick, well, while I'm waiting on him, I'm gonna go ahead and share a little trailer here, what we're talking about today. So here we go.
To protect the sheep, you got to catch the wolf. And it takes a wolf to catch a wolf. You understand? All right. I'm putting cases on all you bitches.
You program, nigga. 23-hour lockdown. I'm the man up in this thing. I'm the police. I run shit here. You just live here. King Kong ain't got shit on me.
You never know. That's the point.
All right, so yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Training day. All right, Mike wanted to come and say hello. I'll be staying this. I've never seen Training Day, so I don't want no spoilers. Yeah, so on the next episode, Mike ain't seen shit. Well, yo, heads up. Next Sunday, if you're available, bro, let's go ahead and knock out that Predator and what I say, Predator and Running Man. I think that's what I said. Oh, thank you, bro. Thank you. Yeah, just put that trailer together real quick. So yeah, Perez is having some technical difficulties, so probably gonna be another minute. So until he comes in, fuck it, let's talk let's talk Training Day. So yeah, Mike, if you down for next Sunday, let's do the damn thing, man. Predator and the Running Man. Mike has never seen those movies. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call that Mike ain't seen shit. All right. So yeah, still waiting on Perez here. Okay, so to those that sit in, yo, let's talk Training Day real quick. Directed by Antoine Fuqua. This was kind of a bittersweet moment for me because this was like the end of an era. You know what I mean? Like in the 90s, we had a renaissance of black filmmakers, black films. And around 2001, 2002, that shit kind of died off. And now we're lucky to get, you know, a few quality black films a year. Well, I mean, no, to be fair, now we're getting a lot of quality black films, but not like those back in the day, like, you know, like the Minister Societies, the Boys in the Hoods, Do the Right Things, you know what I'm saying? But don't get me wrong, like, you know, Ryan Coogler and this generation of black directors all doing their thing. But to me, I feel like Training Day was like the beginning of the last of like the hood classics, you know what I mean? So yeah, it stars Ethan Hawke, Denzel Washington, his Oscar-winning performance, and I remember a lot of women back in the day, a lot of black women were mad at Denzel for doing this movie because they said They was like, damn, I don't like my Denzel acting like that. Why he gotta be so mean? I'm like, he's acting. He's an actor. Damn, you can't get the Mighty Quinn every fucking time. All right, so Perez is finally in the house. Let's add him to the stream here. Yo, what's good, fam?
What's up, man? Might be. Sorry for the lateness. I was trying to get my computer was acting funky. Couldn't get any audio coming out, but here I am now. Sorry for the delay. I see that you got started. Hello, everybody. Sorry for my tardiness. Yeah, man. Training day. This is. I'm glad you gave me this one, man. I hadn't seen this one in a hot minute.
Word. No, yeah, I was just telling the people here how like to me this was kind of like the beginning of the end of an era of a renaissance of black films that came out like in the 90s, and then like 2001 2002 was like the end of like the hood movies, like the hood classics, and like the Menaces and the Boys in the Hood and Juice and all that. And Training Day was like the last of that era, that and also Paid in Full, which came out a year later, and then that was it. So we haven't got no hood movies really for like a long time after that. You know what I'm saying? So
right, yeah, it feels like there was like an era that like even if I hadn't seen them, there was like these like definitive hood films that were coming out that were like super popular. Some of which you mentioned there that you've had me watch here with you on the channel. But yeah, you don't really ever see anything touch on that world, even in a comedy sense too. I recently rewatched Friday, and you just don't see anything like that kind of stuff anymore, man. It's kind of a shame.
I don't know. I mean, do you think it's because you think like filmmakers are just kind of embarrassed to go there because it's like, yeah, the hood, we've been there, done that. We don't want to see no more hood stuff. But it's like the hood is still here. You know what I'm saying? That the hood is still here. It's a different hood than what we had back then. But there's so many stories you can still tell about the hood. So it's almost like, I don't want to say black folks done got a little too bougie, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of them is just like, well, been there, done that. I don't want to tell those kind of stories. That those stories are beneath me.
Right. I think it's something, a mix of that, and also I think there's maybe a percentage of the audience that felt like, for some of these movies, like maybe it like demonized the culture a little bit, you know what I mean, to kind of make it seem like the hood 100% is like this like place where a lot of this really dangerous stuff happens, which is not incorrect, but I think that there's also really good parts about the hood in general. And then obviously the hood is different in different places, and the different cultures that are in that section, and the different what state it's in, like there's differences. So like you said, there's still stories that could be told, because there's people that just live in that are normal everyday people. You can still tell a good story within that world. But I think it's part of it is maybe some people feeling like, yeah, they don't want to touch on it anymore. Maybe they feel like it's like a stereotype now, which, I don't know. I feel like lately just cinema doesn't want to touch on a lot of too much of like the real issues, unless it's something like political in a different direction, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know how to best describe why I feel those movies aren't necessarily as prominent anymore, but there was definitely an era where it felt a lot more prominent. And then you also have to think too, around that time too, is like rap was, becoming like huge, in the 80s and the 90s. And so there was like this kind of this like huge renaissance of black culture, but specifically like hood black culture. And then of course there was a bunch of media around it. But now, again, I feel like as the years have gone on, I think also to be fair, there was an oversaturation of the market at a certain point where it felt like, there was a bunch of hood films that maybe took away from, the spotlight from some of the really good ones that maybe told a meaningful story or were funny and good, like a Friday or something like that. Because later on, it's like everything, like, even things like Leprechaun in the Hood, you know what I mean? Like, tried to play on that kind of the craze at the time.
Well, I mean, it's like similar to the blaxploitation era, hence the term blaxploitation, because you had like Superfly and Shaft. Like those early movies were like you said, like real prominent. And then, the powers that be said, there's a market for this, so let's just flood the market with. So you go from the Mac and Superfly and Shaft, and then they put out shit like Blackula, Blackenstein, say Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde. Like they just, it just got ridiculous. And yeah, I agree. Yeah, with the hood movies, for every Boys in the Hood and Men's to Society you would get some shit like, Crips and Bloods versus werewolves, or, vampires in the ghetto and shit like that. And the quality just went like downhill, you know what I mean? but like a movie like Training Day, even though it took place in the hood, but it showed from the perspective of the police this time. Because usually in the hood movies, it's shown from the perspective of the people living in the hood. Now we're seeing it from the perspective of the cops and one crooked cop and one straight cop that's really trying to do right. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about this. And like you say, in Friday too, the reason why Cube even did Friday was because he said, well, damn, the general perspective is that the hood is just so bleak, it's grim, it's negative all the time. But shit, we had fun in the hood. You know what I'm saying? The hood was a fun,
Right.
even though we were poor, but we had a lot of good times. So he wanted to show the lighter side of it. So there's so many different perspectives, so many stories you could tell. Yeah, but with Training Day, definitely, from the cops' perspective. But before we continue, though, man, I just want to plug you in real quick. So I got my man Anthony A. Perez in the house here, film critic, very knowledgeable of this shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm learning from him. And, I'm trying to take from his vocabulary and add to my shit. You know what I'm saying? I get a lot smarter when I'm around this guy. So I have his link in the description right now. So after this stream, go check him out, man. You got a couple of new videos out for we dropped the Cobra Kai spoiler review,
Right.
and then you dropped the review for the one I just posted. What's the last couple of videos you dropped?
Yeah, so I just dropped a review for "Don't Worry, Darling," which is the new Olivia Wilde film that had a lot of buzz around it with like some behind the scenes nonsense. Some of Florence Pugh and Harry Styles. I just dropped a review also for Pearl recently with Rashad and Mike from Did You See That? Cobra Kai season 5, as he mentioned, and I think I dropped something else. I can't remember right now. We also did Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban together. Me and Rashad, as we're making our way through the Harry Potter series on my channel. So yeah, definitely go check that out. That's a lot of fun, enjoying those a lot. And we just got a lot of movies coming out, man. It's like nonstop. I feel like there's so many movies and TV shows right now that it's hard to keep up. But anyway, I appreciate the kind words, man, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no doubt. And calm before the storm. October's coming up, and to me, like October's the best fucking time of the year. Halloween time, man. Horror. We're getting like a whole bunch of horror. At this point, I don't even care if they're bad. I just love watching horror movies, man. We got so much shit coming out, man. So I can't wait, yo. So yeah, back to Training Day though. Directed by Antoine Fuqua, who's known for The Equalizer, and he did that Suge Knight documentary that came out a few years ago. What else has he done recently? Antoine Fuqua.
I want to say I saw his name on something recently. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up while we're talking.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah, he's done a lot of shit, but this was the one that put his name on the map. And saw this with my brother at the theater in 2001, and this shit blew me away, yo. The trailer was hot, and the movie lived up to the hype, lived up to what the trailer sold. And like I said earlier, before you just hopped on, Perez, I said a lot of black women were mad at Denzel for doing this movie because they're so used to seeing him as a sex symbol, as like the nice guy, the straight man. When he smiles, you see the glimmer in his teeth. So now he plays a scumbag. So I remember when that came out, a lot of women was like, I ain't like that movie. Why don't you like the movie? Nah, I don't like Denzel acting like that. Why you gotta act like that? He was mean, he was cussing, and he was nasty. I ain't like that. I'm like, he's acting, man. You want him to play the same role every time. You can't get the Mighty Quinn and Malcolm X every time, man. Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty and play a different role. So yeah, Denzel killed this shit. I think it's probably one of the best of his career. So like, what did you think about Training Day? Your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, man. So I'd seen the movie before as well, maybe about a good like 2 or 3 times in the past. Not a movie that I had seen in quite some time. But yeah, it was one of those movies that I felt was like on all the time when I was younger. Even if I didn't like stay and watch it, I'd probably watch it in pieces here and there. But yeah, I saw it maybe in completion like 2 or 3 times. And so it's been over 10 years since I'd seen it. So rewatching it, yeah, man, it was just got me gripped. And what's fun about doing these videos, both for my channel and for your channel, is I kind of get or anybody's channel really, is most times I get to get a second kind of experience of seeing somebody react to these films, which is my fiance. She typically watches all these movies I cover on my channel and do for other people's channels with me. And so Training Day was one that I was like, yeah, like you're definitely going to watch this one with me for sure. 'Cause it's definitely a classic. And, I would say in recent years, I've gotten her into more movies that have Denzel in it or have Ethan Hawke in it. These actors that maybe she would like. Denzel, obviously she knew who he was. You know what I mean? Of course,
Mhm.
she's a huge actor, but she wasn't really a movie person growing up. So it was great to kind of see her reaction to some of these films that made him. And it's somebody like Ethan Hawke who like she's starting to recognize more in the last year of taking her to see things like Black Phone or she watched Moon Knight with me, and so she's starting to recognize like his face and
Mhm.
stuff. So it was cool for her to see something of him when he was super young. So going back and revisiting it, yeah, man, it's a good movie. It's well paced. I say that my biggest issue is a couple times it feels like the movie is about to end, and then you're like, oh shit, we got like another 30 minutes. There's a couple of times where it does that, where it's like it feels like the movie is coming to a conclusion, and then it's like, oh, wait, not even close. But man, it's well performed. The performances are great from beginning to end. The cinematography and the music as well, I feel like really helps kind of pave the way for the scenes. But the performances are really what keep this going, man. Like Ethan Hawke plays such a good character, or what's the word I'm looking for? Such a good audience character where he's this guy who's really just like being taken along for this ride, and over the course of the film, it kind of feels like with you, like, you really like Denzel at first. Like Denzel gives his character, the way he plays the character, he gives you a lot to believe in and trust in when the movie starts. And I liked feeling that way when I started rewatching the movie because I know where it's going, right? But like my fiance had no idea where it's going, so he seems like the good guy at first. Like he seems like the intelligent guy that you need to listen to what he has to say. You need to follow his words. And at first Ethan Hawke's going with all of it, the smoking, the drugs, and all this kind of stuff. And you get talked into absolutely everything because there's like this safety net of the way that Denzel plays this character, and then ultimately he just turns out to be this big piece of shit. So yeah, man, just overall thoughts on it, man. And going back and revisiting it, it's a well-made film from beginning to end. Good performances and good writing. Like I think at its core, like the performances are only good as good as the writing is, and then the pacing of some of the reveals in the story. I think by the time you get to the end, you as an audience member can understand to an extent how Ethan Hawke doesn't always react to things over the course of the movie. He's given enough of a safety net to think that, okay, I'll just keep going with this. It seems a little strange, but okay, that was it. We pushed it there, but maybe this is the way it was something I got to get used to. And you as an audience member almost feel that way too while you're watching it. Like, okay, yeah, like that was, he pushed it, but maybe this is what you really got to do in this line of work. You know what I mean? And then as the movie goes on, by the time you're just like, no, you got to get rid of this guy. We got to take this guy down.
Right.
Ethan Hawke has gotten to that same place around the same time as you as the audience member. And so I think that's like where the writing is really strong, because more often than not, you watch a movie like this and Denzel Washington's an asshole in the first 10 or 15 minutes and that he's the villain. But for a while, you don't know that he's necessarily the villain of this movie. You know what I mean? It's really something that unfolds and unravels in front of you where you're just like, oh, this is really bad news. So yeah, I just think the writing and the pacing of that for you to be alongside the audience character, which is Ethan Hawke, I think that's the way that they paced that out was really solid.
You know what? I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree because, I mean, I agree with most everything you said, but the part that I disagree with is from the jump. The moment he invited him to that diner and sat him down, like, okay, get some grub, and he said, "Now fine, don't get it then. Okay, I'll get some now. Now you already fucked that up." From that first conversation, I said, okay, he's an asshole. But what I liked about it was that even though he's I knew he was an asshole from the jump, but through the movie, you see chinks in his armor where, okay, he may not be so bad after all, because there are a few times where he had like a human moment, but it's like, okay, right, is he being sincere, or is he just like putting on? So like that scene where he's telling him, like, look, man, I know you're trying to do the right thing. I've been there. I know what you're going through, but give it some time. You'll make detective. I can help you, but you have to listen to me. This is just how it goes. So there's times where you're like, damn, okay, he's maybe not that bad. But from the beginning, I knew this guy was an asshole. But a likable asshole. I really liked him being a jerk, because this is a side of Denzel we haven't seen before, So I was all for it. And he chewed up every scene he was in, and you could tell he was having fun. I always hear like a lot of actors, even wrestlers, say they love playing the bad guy more than the good guy, because as a bad guy, you could just have so much fun with it. Like the gloves come off, you could just be free, let your hair down, just be as crazy as you want to be. And you could tell he really had fun in that role. And yeah, Ethan Hawke, I will agree, he's the eyes of the audience. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're seeing the movie through his lens, and you feel bad for the guy because all he wants to do is be a good cop, which is kind of hard to find nowadays, man. But he's actually one of the good ones. But you see how a lot of cops can get corrupted by other cops. Like one bad apple spoils a bunch. So there's probably so many cops that start out like him, but then ends up being like Alonzo. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and that's what I was saying before. Is like, when you're saying that he's an asshole from the jump. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But he almost comes off as like this mentor kind of like asshole kind of thing. I'm sure you can think to times like whether it was like a school event, like an extracurricular thing, or maybe a hobby you had, or if you ever had like a mentor or a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were assholes a lot of times, man. Like, you know what I mean? Try to get you in line. Sometimes a little bit more so than they should have been. But like, so that's kind of the vibe he gives off at first. So kind of like you said, like a likable asshole. So that's why I feel like even you as an audience member start to see those little moments of humanity in him and think, all right, cool. Like maybe he just pushed it far there, but this is what they need to do for the job. And I think that's what I was saying before is like, it's just great to see how they pace out that story so that you kind of give them chances as an audience member as well, alongside Ethan Hawke, but then you and Ethan Hawke kind of come to the same conclusion at a certain point of like, oh, this guy's got to get taken down. But yeah, man, it's a good movie, man. It's a good performance, specifically from Denzel. Ethan Hawke, I think he can only do as well as he was written. You know what I mean? He is written well for sure. But like you said, his character's got to kind of take it in and kind of play off of all this stuff. But all the nuance and the small moments come from Denzel in this like really heavy ways. And I mean, all those iconic lines that have become like memes and GIFs nowadays. Like this film is just so iconic, and there's so many moments of performance from Denzel, bro, that he's just like the charisma. I think that's a big thing too. He could play the villain and be such a horrible person, but the charisma that oozes off of every smile that he lets off on screen is just that's one of those characters in his filmography that I feel you really like. That's where he's like probably most a chameleon. I think like he's like super lost in that role. You don't really see Denzel Washington in that role, whereas there are a lot of movies where he gives great performances, but you're like, yeah, that was Denzel Washington.
That's Denzel playing this role. So like there's a few roles that he did where he actually got lost into the character, and this is one of them. I say this and Malcolm X are like probably the two roles that he played where you see him as Malcolm X and as Alonzo Harris as opposed to Denzel. You know what I mean? So okay, so let me ask you, okay, so this movie's chock full of great quotes, right? Okay, well, what's your favorite Denzel line from this movie?
Man, that's hard, man. That's really hard, dude. I don't know if there's necessarily a line that he gives per se. I feel like the classic one of him in the car with the cigarette that I'm not going to say out loud, but like that was just like it's just great because like the amount of times that like you and Q have sent that to me like as a GIF, like or a GIF or however you want to pronounce it. Like it's such a classic thing I think about from that movie. But I want to say that for me, like the star moment for me, and I mean it builds up to it too, is that final monologue he gives in front of the whole community there at the end before he gets, obviously before everything goes downhill for him, or things have already kind of gone downhill at that point. But that whole monologue and the way he looks around at everybody, and like there's this level of like pleading for help while also like there's a level of panic, and there's a level of panic and pleading for help while also it says pronounced GIF. I've seen people say that it's pronounced GIF online.
GIF, yeah, I get confused too. GIF.
I just say GIF. I think that's what makes the most sense, but you never know. But yeah, like I love that scene because there's a level of him pleading for help from the community there, right? But then it's just layered with bullshit, and they know it too. And on top of that, then you also have like an element of his pride is like just showing heavy. You know what I mean? So he's like the moment, like as an actor, he had to show off this like high level of pride alongside this like this fear and pleading for help, and like seeing his like in his eyes, noticing that everything's unraveling in front of him, and it's not going.
I'm running cases on all you bitches. Shoot programs, nigga. 24-hour lockdown. I'm the police. Y'all just live. Y'all just live here. I run shit here. That's why you better walk away. I'm gonna burn this motherfucker down.
Yeah, see, I couldn't remember the lines for verbatim, but like,
I've seen it so many times, bro. I know that movie like the back of my hand now.
Yeah, man, I don't blame you, dude. It's a good one, man. Revisiting it definitely hit my list of like need to revisit this again more soon, or sooner than I actually did this last time around because yeah, it's a good movie, man. It's another thing too is like one of the things I find that I've seen a lot of movies these days, and not every movie. There's plenty of movies that breeze by and that are a great time. But there's a lot of movies nowadays that just sometimes the pacing I find to be an issue with a lot of movies. And it was something about this time in filmmaking, but like you watch a movie like this and you have a movie that has the, typical movie like length, or like, runtime that's maybe a little bit longer than some movies. And it just feels breezy, man. You like just don't feel a lot of downtime. You don't feel really bored. There's always something in the script to keep it moving, but also to utilize that to flesh out who these characters are.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the actor, but the guy who plays the older white guy that he bamboozles at the end of the movie. What's his name?
That I can't remember the actor's names. I've seen him in so much stuff too, but he's been in like a lot of stuff.
See, I just think of him specifically. I mean, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff too, but I just think of him from Daredevil when he played Master Stick in that show.
That's right. He was in that.
Scott Glenn. Yeah, that dude, man, he's such a good actor. So seeing him in this movie was great because I completely forgot he was in this movie. Like, I remembered that role. I remembered the guy who, like, an old man that gets, gets turned on, but I did not remember that he was played by him. And so, yeah, that was great too. A nice surprise. The cast in this movie is super strong.
Yeah, listen, there's so many great lines in this movie, man. Yeah, you tell me a story right now. Go. Wait, man, what about the part where he dared your boy to shoot him? He was like, yeah, you ain't gonna shoot no cop in the back. He's got the cigarette dangling out of his mouth. He's like, yeah, you ain't gonna shoot no cop in the back. You know what they give you for that? The gas chamber. You know what the gas chamber smell like? Pine oil. That's where you're going right now. You going to pine oil heaven. I'm gonna get that gun. I'm gonna get that money. You ain't gonna do shit about it. Of course, he got shot in the ass. Oh God! So I wonder how much of that was improv and how much like ad libbed and how much that was like actually in the script. Or did Antoine Fuqua just say like just go crazy?
There had to have been there's something about that performance that gives off too much fluidity. I almost would be surprised to hear if all those lines were in the script. If they were, then the script is even stronger than I thought it was. And good on Denzel to translate that script to a movie and a performance that like really flows. Yeah, like I feel like he's so fluid in the performance over the course of it that there had to have been moments of ad-libbing to some degree, just expand, even if the core structure of what he was going to say was there and he just kind of like added a couple extra words to get himself there. I have to imagine there was some of that because yeah, man, he's killer in the movie for sure.
Word. And to kind of piggyback on what you were saying too, yeah, that movie hasn't see the problem with movies now, like you said. I think nowadays it's too much exposition now, too many filler moments. Like they're trying to take a 2-hour movie and fill it with just shit that we don't need, and so as a result, you kind of get lost in the sauce. Or like me, I doze the fuck off for a minute. You know what I mean?
Right. But well, like I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, but a movie like Training Day, there's never no downtime. Like, well, the only time there was downtime is when he met up with the elders, the police elders or whatever at the diner. Like that's the only time in the movie where it kind of slowed down. So we're like, okay, we can pick this back up again. But other than that, every scene there was always something going on, and there was always a reason for what was going on. So like even a scene that seems random, like when they found the girl in the alley getting jumped by those junkies, like you figure, okay, why is that scene in the movie? But then it does play into what happens later, you know. So everything that happened for a reason, you know what I mean? And it keeps you engaged the whole time. So these filmmakers now can take notes from that, man, and stop putting me to sleep.
Right. I think you nailed it right on the head with the expository dialogue. Does Denzel ad-lib? I mean, who knows? I would assume he's very strict to the script. I know I know he's definitely talked about being like that for sure. But I almost have to say that I feel like he probably ad-libbed at least a little bit on this movie. Especially
the King Kong line, man. Come on, you can't write that. You know, King Kong ain't got shit on that. That's something that you just make up on the fly when you pissed off. Like Perez, you've been mad. You've had a rant. You just say some of the wildest shit. You know, shit that you don't think to write down. It just comes out of you. So, I think that was definitely ad-lib, you know what I mean? But, yeah, go ahead, though.
No, you're good. But I do agree with what you were saying about expository dialogue. I think that a lot of movies nowadays, and there's plenty of movies in the past that did it too, but, like, yeah, they try to tell you the story. They try to tell you the character development. They try to tell you things about the story. And I think that's fine, you know? Like, if we're starting a movie and it's like a fantasy film and, you know, it started off – in a land when, whatever, like, and they go off on some, thing about like in the past that,
Yeah.
some god destroyed something and now there's an egg you got to find, whatever, some crap like that. Okay. But in the case of a movie like this, it's like, yeah, you want those scenes to expand upon things, because like that scene that you mentioned with the young girl that, was going to get raped and stuff in that alleyway, that, like, not only does it show, is it a scene that is utilized to show who Ethan Hawke's character is and who Denzel Washington's character isn't. It does set up something that actually does play out later in the story, like narratively.
Right.
They actually tie it all back in later on. But had they not even done that, I it still would have thematically played into the film for the fact of who these two characters are, especially since it was like their like first little bit out. You know what I mean? Like, he sees the situation. They still could have utilized that one scene to kind of maybe see the lack of humanity in Denzel's character, but ultimately outside of it also accomplishing that, it also was used to tie into a story beat that would come later on. So yeah, I think overall, like you were saying, like the expository dialogue is like a key thing into why there's so many movies nowadays that don't, like they don't work as well, because they just try to tell you, like, oh, right, show don't tell. Exactly. It's like a lot of telling you things, and that's okay to an extent, but it's like, it's kind of like when you watch a movie and it's funny that here's a good example, a movie with Ethan Hawke as well. I was talking to somebody about it last night, a movie that I really enjoyed, really enjoyed this year, and that was Black Phone. I think we both enjoyed it. Good movie.
Tight.
My only issue with that movie, though, the one gripe I have with it, is that like our main characters, the two young kids, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Black Phone, I guess, the two young kids in the film that figure things out, the brother and the sister, the brother who's kidnapped and the sister who is going over there to save him, is that neither one of them discover anything for themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the little girl has dreams that give her exposition on where to find her brother, and then the brother sees the dead kids that give him exposition on how to do stuff. And by the time of the end of the movie, I found myself thinking, I wish that like our main characters had uncovered things for their own. You know what I mean? Have found out how to do things on their own in the movie versus the story just kind of being written in a way to tell them stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like, well, being convenient, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Convenient. Daily reminder that Officer Tatum is a clown. Oh well. I haven't did an Officer Jackson video in a long time. I'm due for one because Tatum has been saying some crazy shit. I agree, man. I think sometimes writers and filmmakers underestimate the audience, you know what I'm saying, and our intelligence. So it's like, okay, they have to kind of like really slow it down for you. Like, hey, this character is supposed to do this, and this character is supposed to be that, and this is how like we can figure shit out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't have no doctorate or nothing like that, but I think I can follow a story as long as you don't get too fucking crazy with it. You know what I'm saying? So okay, with that being said, all like you said, every situation that happens in this movie happens for a reason, and then you find out later on that everything that he was doing was not only to set Jake up just in case Jake wasn't down with the program, but also to get the money to pay these Russians because he beat a Russian to death and he's in debt to these Russians now. So he goes to that one lady's house where he robs her. He uses a Chinese takeout menu as a search warrant.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And he robs his man, his homeboy who's got the money in the floor. So like he was just plotting and scheming the whole time. And by the end, of course, it all caught up to him. But to me, I think the most tense part in this movie, bro, I think you will agree with this too. The most tense part in the film was when he left him at that one house with the Mexican gangsters.
Oh yeah.
And he went to go so-called take a shit. And when he looked out the window, he was like, oh, he said, yeah. He said, yeah, your buddy Alonzo, I think he played you for a fool, let's say. Hey, you ever had your shit pushed in? Simple question. I had my shit pushed in. What about you? Oh yeah, I had my shit pushed in, bro, big time. That scene, like I remember watching that for the first time, Perez, and that shit was so tense. Like it almost horror-esque a little bit because it's like, how the fuck is he gonna get out of this?
Right.
Like
and those actors,
those
actors they chose are perfect. The actors that they chose for those three guys, I can't remember the name of the main guy, but he's been in a million things. But that guy that's like, I've got my shit pushed in, all that stuff a bunch
Yeah.
of times. That guy he acts so big. It's funny. I'm rewatching. I'm about to be in the last season of my rewatch of Breaking Bad, and I forgot that guy was in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was like Tico or something like that. And he's like crazy in that
Tuco.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tuco.
Tuco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a couple seasons ago, but yeah, it was just funny to see him like kind of in a close proximity of time because I can tell you I hadn't seen that dude in anything since I watched Breaking Bad. But then watching that and then watching Breaking Bad and then watching Training Day, yeah, he's just such a crazy actor. So he brings that same kind of crazy energy. And then there was that other dude, that Mexican dude that was like in every movie as like the typical Mexican dude for like 100 movies. I always think of him from Bruce Almighty because he's the guy that the monkey came out his butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that is a tense scene. And again, story wise though, going back to what we were just saying, like that's where all of it ties back into that scene earlier in the film, you know. So it could have been utilized as another like, hey, we're gonna go somewhere and I'm gonna leave you here in this tense situation. And they could have just utilized that as its separate. They could have just utilized it as a separate thing where it's like, oh, here's another example of why Denzel Washington is trying to do dirty by Ethan Hawke's character, but ultimately they tie it into the story and it really further expands upon Ethan Hawke's character development by the time he gets to the last scene with him and Denzel and the whole community. So yeah, I definitely agree, bro. That I knew it too, man. Like when I saw it the first time, I remember when I was younger. Because when I was younger too, like that was an even more tense scene for me. Now you watch so many movies, you get used to it. But like when I was younger, I remember being super tense about that the first time I saw it because, I'm sure we all had like those times where like I grew up thankfully like in safe households with my parents and stuff, but I grew up in Miami, and in some shady areas, definitely like very close to the hood in a lot of ways. Like some areas we lived in were very hood in and of themselves. And so definitely, was around some shady stuff sometimes. And there was definitely times where like, I don't know, we went to like a family member's house or something and I got left somewhere for a moment and there was some just shady people in the room. And then your mind starts to go off on like, I'm going to die. And you're usually fine. But like when I watched that scene, man, like you just know it's going downhill, man. And like they sit down to play cards and like just the dialogue around like the way that they're talking to him, like the kind of interrogating him. It's unsettling for sure. So yeah, it's definitely the tensest scene in the movie for sure.
Yeah, because at first they were playing nice and everything, and like, yeah, have a beer, we're playing cards or whatever. And then when they found out that that Alonzo left, he's like, I think your buddy played you, for a fool, let's say, and then he went into the whole thing about the Russians. He was like, yeah, that's why I never shake his hand because he's a scumbag, but I mean, hey, but he paid us, so we got to kill you now. And luckily the girl's wallet, saved his life. And I don't know if you caught the scene before when Ethan Hawke was walking to the car, you hear Denzel talking to somebody on the phone. He's like, yeah, make sure that bathtub is clean. So he's planning the shit like all day.
Right. Okay.
Kill him. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. See, that's like the best part about the movie is like there's that rewatchability to it. There's the clever element to the storytelling that everything ties in, like, you were talking about like filler scenes. Yeah. There's a lot of movies nowadays that have scenes that ultimately succumb to nothing or even TV shows, you know what I mean? Like for what they just did with Cobra Kai and Miguel going to Mexico, like it's a waste of time. But it's nice to see a movie, to rewatch a movie that just utilizes its scenes to play into something later on. Like there isn't really very many scenes in this movie that don't come back in some way later on.
Right. And I will say too, putting my critic hat on now, as much as I love this movie, I have to call bullshit on a couple of things. Like, so most of this movie is really grounded, kind of realistic in a way. Like it's a gritty kind of, crime drama. But then by the end, it almost turns into like a Lethal Weapon, like Die Hard type action movie where they have a final face off, right? And Ethan Hawke actually like jumps from a building, lands back first on Denzel's car, like on the windshield. I'm like, come on, bro, that should have broke your fucking back. Gets up from that and still has the strength and the energy to sock him a couple of times. I'm like, okay, all right, this shit just got a little far-fetched a little bit, but you know what? It's whatever, man. This movie's so awesome, I could look past that. But there was a time where it was starting to become like a ridiculous kind of action cliche almost. What do you think?
I would say this for me. I'll agree to an extent. Sure, I would say if we're talking about realistic stuff or logic that does not make sense in the movie, for me, it's definitely it's definitely him smoking that supposed weed, because like he said, I think that he hadn't done it in a long time, or he never had, or something. And
Right.
so, as somebody who has indulged in that life quite a bit, to take the fat ass complete, like he smoked the whole bowl, to take all that and then find out afterwards that it's actually like some sort of like stronger hallucinogenic drug
PCP,
that you've
angel dust.
never ever dealt with before, that's now in your lungs, and that, bro, that guy would have been fucked for majority of that day. So the
Right.
fact that he bounces back so quickly at any point, like even soon, like he should have been like ill, I think a little bit. You know what I mean? Like usually anybody who plays around with some drug like that they've never, their body's not used to, and like a high
Right.
dosage like that, my man would have been throwing up. He would not have been. He
Oh
would have not have
man.
been okay. That's a minor gripe because it's a movie, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like it was, that was the one thing I was watching. Like, okay, that my man would have been stuck on Master Stick's couch for the next 3 hours.
I'll be, bro. Have you ever seen anybody on PCP before? Like on
Yeah, I
Angel
mean,
Dust?
I've seen people
Yeah.
on the streets. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, he would have been fucked up, man. He would not have been all right, because I think it's like right after that they go to Master Stick's house. That's what I'm going to call him for the rest of the movie. They would go to
Right.
Master Stick's house, and then that's where they have that first introduction with him, and he's like, "Hey, you think this guy's going to make it?" All that stuff, and then they end up leaving, and I think it's right after that they come across the girl in the alleyway. I
Right.
believe that's the sequence of events, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know about you, bro, but I would not have had any sort of ability to be like, police, get down. Like none of
Right.
that would,
Right.
none of that would. And then he beats them too, bro. Like I would have been fucked up. Man. I would have been fucked up.
Yeah, no, I'll be, yeah, because now that happens now. So if you're drinking, being a professional tier 1 alcoholic as I am, okay, I know for sure. You like probably like, what's tier 1? A tier 1 is a weekend drinker. Okay, so if you drink just on occasion, like Friday through Sunday, like at night, that's considered a tier 1 alcoholic. Of course, tier 4 is when you drink all day every day, and you're like a fully functioning alcoholic. That's tier 4. So, anyways, being a drinker like I am, I know what it's like to be fucked up and drunk, but then something snaps you out of it and you sober up just like that. So with alcohol, you can do that, but with that type of shit, no.
Right.
Even if a bomb goes off, you're like, oh shit.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's one thing for it to have been pot, and even then, if he hadn't done it in a long time and he took these fat ass hits that he was taking, yeah, he would have been struggling. Like he would have still been struggling like that. You know what I mean? Like trying to do a job, trying to be a police officer, stoned on pot. Like if you haven't done it in a long time, he still would have been a little bit incapacitated to some degree. But then to add in the fact that it was like a hallucinate, like PCP, like he would have been. What I mean, he would have been fucked. That guy would have been fucked. Like, so that's one of those things that definitely did not make any sense. Brooklyn's Finest. You'll probably be upset to hear I've actually never seen it before. So that's a criminal act on my part.
Brooklyn's Finest is a very underrated film that kind of went under the radar for a lot of people. Like,
right, but I definitely know of it. I know it's a classic. I know it's a cult classic. It's one of those cult classics I just never got around to.
Yeah, it's not on a level of Training Day, but to me, I dug it, but not a lot of people talk about it, so I can't fault you for never seeing it. Now, Training Day, I just got on Mike early because Mike was like, I've never seen Training Day. I said, Mike, you haven't seen shit.
He hasn't seen anything, bro. I was giving him shit yesterday because he saw Avatar, the 2009 movie, for the first time. And I was like, dude, the first time I saw that movie like 6 or 7 times in theaters alone, that when it first came out. And like I've seen it like dozens of times since then.
Yeah.
It's the first movie I always try when I get a new TV. I always test my new TV with Avatar 2009.
Right.
Always skip to the scene at the end, where Neytiri is in the trees, and they're getting overwhelmed, and then all the different animals and like the big rhinos and stuff come busting through the trees, and she's like, AWOL has heard you, and then it cuts to that shot of Jake on top of the Banshee and he jumps off into the ship.
Right.
That's the perfect scene to test your TV levels. Anyway, yeah, dude, he's a trip, man. He's a trip. He has not seen Jack. I like to pride myself on the fact that I've seen a lot of movies, especially from back in the day, because my parents, very different styles of movies, very similar in some areas. Like as a kid, they grew me up on like, the classics, the Star Wars, obviously that one's the one that stuck the most. But Rocky and Rambo, and my mom grew me up on like 16 Candles and all those like, kind of teeny bop films. So I felt like really well kind of introduced to all that stuff. And mind you, I grew up in the late 90s and stuff. So the TV was still showing Back to the Future and, Three Ninjas and all these different movies and stuff at that time. But I try to pride myself. I try to pride myself on having seen a lot of the classics or the cult classics and stuff. But every here and there's those that slip through the cracks. And Brooklyn's Finest is one that I've always wanted to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I like it though, because I love sharing old movies with people that haven't seen it. So the fact that Mike hasn't seen a lot of shit, I think I'm gonna call the segment "Mike Ain't Seen Shit," and just because next week, if he's if he could do it, we're supposed to be reviewing Predator and The Running Man, and I was shocked like he'd never seen Predator. I wanted to show him the Arnold movies that I'm like, okay, that most people probably haven't seen, but everybody's seen Predator. Like, if you don't know Arnold or anything else, usually it's Terminator 2 or Predator. So the fact he hasn't seen Predator, I'm like, dude, yeah, we're doing that next Sunday for sure.
Yeah, man, trust me. Anything I've invited him on for that was like a classic franchise or a classic movie, it's always a trip, man. It's always super funny to just see his reactions to things. He's like, oh, I've never seen that one before. I've never heard of that before. He's so funny about it, the way he approaches it. And anytime I get on him about it, he goes, dude, as I've told you, as a kid, my mom just played Toy Story a million times. And I was like, all right, I guess I get it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, that's what my son is fortunate. I show my son. Well, I don't show him the hardcore stuff. Like, I'm itching to show him RoboCop so bad, but he's only 6.
Right.
And my father showed me that movie when I was 7, and it kind of fucked me up a little bit. But in a good ways, I enjoyed it. But I just that scene where Murphy gets his brains blown out. So I'm a 7-year-old kid in 2nd grade trying to color in the coloring book, but I'm seeing Murphy getting blown the fuck up. So I'm not quite ready to fuck him up like that yet. But I did show him Back to the Future recently for the first time.
Nice.
And it brought a tear to my eye. He loved it. Like, he was cheering at certain parts, laughing at certain parts. I'm just loving his reaction. So I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, they got a part 2. I said, yeah. Part 2? Fuck. I don't care for Back to the Future 2. So of course I show him the second one. Oh, they got a third one? Yeah. We watch part 3.
Yeah, see that's where I would be like, the second one, I like the second Back to the Future. The third one is I give or take for me, but no, it's funny, man, because like having a kid, that's kind of like that prime time. At 6 years old, I was already obsessed with Star Wars and things like that my parents were starting to show me that were from the past. And then as I got a little bit older and I was interested in like, who's that creepy ass little redheaded thing, or like who's that burnt looking guy, like, you know what I mean, like it freaked me out. But then eventually I started getting into like the slashers were my first kind of foray into something more adult,
right.
And then I started getting into like more horror films, and then it was here we are.
Here we are now.
Where are we at? We're both in Florida.
Yep. Butt scratching Sanford. Where everybody just bought all the damn water. Man, I was so pissed off, man. I went to, like, when I first heard about the storm we're supposed to get, I went to Walmart just to grab a couple of jugs, being generous for everybody else. Man, Perez, as soon as I get to the motherfucker, this redneck dude had, no lie, about 8 to 10 cases of water in the bed of his truck.
I believe it.
Like, dude, and then I go inside, all the water's gone except for distilled. There's like a whole bunch of distilled water, but all the water's gone. I'm like, this shit's not even supposed to hit us that hard. It's just hitting more like on the outskirts a little bit, like on the coastline, but not really us. And people are freaking the fuck out, man. I'm like, ugh.
Man, it's one of those weird things, because like I've lived in Florida my whole life, and I've been around for some big hurricanes that have come through here that like put me out of school for a while and shit. I remember like, was it
Charlie?
Wilma? Yeah, Wilma came through, and there was the Irma a good few years ago, or like, what's that other one? Katrina, obviously, that did like a lot of damage over there at in Louisiana. But like, what's it called? Yeah, so that kind of stuff down, because I live down in Miami. Like, we got hit pretty hard, and we were out of commission for like a couple of weeks in terms of power and stuff like that. But I haven't had anything too crazy since. So I understand the preparation to an extent, but I don't know, man. I just feel like some people just take it to the next level, and
Just take it, yeah. I mean, and Walmart should have the to say, hey, you can only grab so much. Other people, other people have to get water too. Don't grab up all the fucking water for yourself, and nobody else has none.
Right.
I mean, I understand it's a dog eat dog world, but damn, as a store, as a business, okay, there's a 4 case minimum, and after that, you're good.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a shame, bro. People just are crazy, dude. Like I already was talking to some friends. They were telling me that certain gas stations in the area have already run out of gas. And I'm just like, dude, are we serious? Like, come on. Like,
I guess I'm so used to this shit now. I'm like, hurricane. All right, cool. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Right.
I just hope I don't get. As long as I have my alcohol, I'm good.
Right.
RoboCop must have been. Yeah, I was 7 when I saw RoboCop, and that movie was etched in my brain like for a long time. And it's so crazy. As violent as that movie is, though, I know you wasn't around at the time, Perez, but as violent as that movie was, like right after that movie came out, you had the video game, the arcade game, the Nintendo game. They had a toy line, a fucking cartoon series. I'm like, dude, like this movie is not for kids.
Yeah, it was a different time, because I just feel like what was allowed and what was viewed as bad or was good, like especially before the internet, because I think what's an interesting thing is I remember as a kid, as the internet started becoming a thing, that for a lot of movies, because I grew up in a religious household, specifically when I was like staying with my dad, who was like the more religious of the two of my parents, they like my dad would start to like look online for like these sites that would like break down all the explicit things that were or inappropriate things that were in the upcoming movies, whether it was a kids movie or not kids movie. And sometimes we would kind of go off of that at times. Eventually as I got older and my sister and I started to get a little more mature, my dad didn't really care as much. But yeah, like I remember as a kid, like there was just like a bunch of stuff that that I couldn't watch that was coming out around the time when I was a kid. But then some of the older stuff, yeah, like they would throw it on no problem, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is pretty problematic, or this has its own issues, like and just look back at older movies, and there was a different approach to telling stories for younger audience. Look at the new Pinocchio, like versus the original. The original has like when they go to Pleasure Island, they're smoking cigars and drinking beer, and then the new one they're drinking root beer. It's like, oh wow, it's a crime to drink root beer, I guess. But yeah, it's crazy. So I can actually distinctly remember watching RoboCop as a kid the first time, and it's funny. The only thing with all the blood and the gore and the guts, like nothing was ever said to me about that. I can't remember if the first time I watched it like the normal version, or if I watched it like a TV edit. But I'm going to assume a normal version, because what I do remember is the movie starting and there being like the whole shower room scene, and there's just a bunch of naked women walking around, and I just specifically remember that whoever I was watching it with fast forwarded through that part, and then after that they didn't fast forward through anything else. But and they didn't even really think about it. The movie started, and then maybe like 3 or 4 rows of boobies in, they were like, oh, okay, we're gonna fast forward really quickly.
Man, there's boobies in there, cocaine, extreme violence. Because my father thought it was because the name RoboCop, it sounds like a sci-fi superhero type movie. So
right.
My father and I remember him leaning over to me. We saw it at the cinema. He leaned over to me, says, "You okay, man? I don't think this movie's for you." And I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, all right. And he said, fuck it. He just let me watch it, But at the time, that was a time where violent movies, they would take them and then they would sell merch for kids. Like Rambo, that's another. Rambo 2 was very violent, and they had a toy line in the cartoon for that, So, not to veer off. I'm sorry, we veered off a little bit talking RoboCop and shit, but yeah. So overall, man, really love Training Day. It's definitely hood classic, just a classic period. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to just box it in as a hood classic. It's just an overall fucking classic. Man, I love the movie. Very small gripes in there, but overall, I dug it, man. So I give it an A+. If I give it a Rashad G Reviews grade, I give it an A+, man. Antoine Fuqua's masterpiece.
Right.
He hasn't been able to top that. I mean, Equalizer is kind of close, but he's never been able to top what he did with Training Day.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at his filmography and stuff and some of his more modern films. And he's still working, he's still putting out movies. He's got another Equalizer coming out and all this stuff. So, like, he's definitely Still a very successful director. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. I would give this film an A+ too. I think this is a really solid film, man, for what it is. Like, and yeah, like I wouldn't even call it like a hood classic per se, or like a hood film solely, but it's definitely a street film. You know what I mean? And I think that it's nice to see movies like this to have a realistic approach on the streets, like, you know what I mean, and kind of like show you some of the. It doesn't give you like this movie version of like a, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there are some movies that do depict the streets in this way that's just not real, you know what I mean? And then sometimes they go too opposite in the other way, where they make the street seem like it's freaking Gotham. But you know, like I think that this movie has it toes a good line of like the dangers, the corruption, but also just the good people living within it that just want to be left alone, you know what I mean? And so I think that this movie handles that well. So A+, definitely agree.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I mean, it's very popular in today's times to villainize certain groups. You know what I'm saying? So that they'll put out a movie now where it just totally just shits on the police, like the police is just evil. You know what I'm saying? But this movie, like I said before, it shows from the two perspectives of cops that are really trying to do good and the cops that are bad people. You know what I mean? But you know, you come up with your own conclusion instead of them forcing you to say like, hey, you have to root for this one or you have to hate this one. You know, and I think that's where a lot of people start getting divided. You know, it's like, oh, this is a message film or the so-called woke. This is a woke film, you know, trying to force us to do this, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's so much divide now because it's like, I feel like a lot of movies now are trying to force you to feel a certain way instead of just telling a story that you feel how you want to feel.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely agree. I think that, and yeah, it's like you said, it's like it flips the script a little bit and it gives you a realistic kind of approach to all those levels, man. Like I like specifically like at the very end with the whole community, like I mentioned, I love that scene, but like you have people like it doesn't just depict it as like the people from the hood are bad or scary or crime ridden, you know what I mean? Like most of those people there at the end were people that Denzel's character, like he blackmailed them, he, you know, pushed them in a corner, he made them feel oppressed in a way, and now they get this chance to see this guy, you know, a cop specifically, being taken down by another cop. And he feels like the sense of like ownership in the sense of like, oh, like, you know, you guys owe me, or like, you know, like I'm one of you. And here's this guy who's just trying to do good, you know what I mean? And it just shows both sides, you know, it shows that there is crime and stuff in the hood, but that there's just good people in there that are just trying to live their lives and that trust in good cops to get things done, you know what I mean? So they saw this opportunity for this so-called good cop to get taken down. And I just like the way that they handle all of that, man. It feels real, it feels tangible, it feels human. And yeah, man, it's just it's a very human movie, despite it also being, you know, a little bit die-hardy near the end.
Yeah, definitely. Damn, I guess I watch a lot of Cobra Kai, man, because I'm like, yeah, that was a Terry Silver moment, you know, where remember how Terry Silver at the end of 5, the spoilers, by the way, where he's like, yeah, you know, he's trying to get their attention. Nobody's studying him, so he's looking like, oh, well, y'all turned on me. Wait a minute, they did some shit too. They broke into my house, you know. Had that whole Denzel thing going on. He must have watched Training Day for a reference because those scenes are very identical.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So there you have it, y'all. A+ for both of us for Training Day, and Dar, since we on the hood tip here, I think our next one is gonna be another film that came out in 2001. This came to me. Came out in 2001, starring a person who I'm not a fan of right now, but back then I thought it was kind of cool. I'm talking about Tyrese and Baby Boy.
Okay. I've never seen it.
Never seen Baby Boy? Okay.
Never.
Yeah. That's another one that's like the last of the hood class. I think Training Day, Baby Boy, and then I think the last one was like Paid in Full. But I'm gonna spare you Paid in Full because that movie's definitely not for everybody. But yeah, Baby Boy's gonna be our next one.
Cool, man.
Yeah, so that's Tyrese, Taraji P. Henson, and I think her first movie role.
Really? Okay, that should be interesting.
Yeah. Yep, Ving Rhames, Snoop, directed by John Singleton. You know, so he said that was part of his hood trilogy. So yeah, Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, and then Baby Boy was like the last of his hood trilogy.
All right, cool. Yeah, I love that cast for sure. Ving Rhames? He's got such an interesting voice. I just recently rewatched and did a video recently, like in the last like month and a change. Did Lilo and Stitch with Blacktastic Media, and he did not love the film at all. Which
I
is a
I
shame.
saw that.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's like a childhood movie, but I get it. Like that's the kind of the fun
Yeah.
of having Blacktastic watch any of the Disney movies. But one of the things he did like is there's one brother in the movie, and he's played by Ving Rhames, and yeah, he's great in that movie. He has such a distinct voice. Like I can hear him in anything, and I know it's him for sure.
Oh yeah, well he definitely plays a different role in this one, man. I think to me, yeah, he was clearly the standout in Baby Boy. Yeah, he plays a badass character in this. So I'm curious to see what you think about that one.
For
So
sure, bro. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, man. So with that being said, once again, the Perez's link is gonna be in the description. So check him out, Anthony A. Perez, and Q Reviews is in the house. But everybody on Black People Time today, boy. What's going on? Q, what up, fam? What's good? My G. Yeah, man. Just got through signing autographs at a Connecticut Comic-Con playing the Duke.
Right, man. Freaking, it's crazy. You know, I never I watched that movie, the fan film that he was in last year for Friday the 13th, but I never covered it on the channel because I got so past October and then I fell behind.
Right.
But I'm gonna have to do a 1-year anniversary kind of like review when it comes around now on October, because I mean, yeah, dude, the fact that I was so happy to see, just another cue, if you're still watching, I was so happy to see him posting all his pictures at a convention, signing autographs and stuff.
Oh yeah,
that's super awesome to see a friend like doing something like that. They even be in a movie, and he was great in it too, man. It was super.
He
cool
killed it. Yeah, he killed it. Yeah, you will remember me.
Right.
Damn, I'm like, damn. So I say Q got in touch with his inner thespian, man.
Yeah, he ate it up, bro. He showed up to work, bro. He showed up to work, and man, I mean, that's all you could ask, right? It's like you could tell he's a fan. You could tell he's a fan when you watch that movie.
No doubt. So yeah, once again, subscribe to Anthony Perez if you haven't already. So after you get done with this live stream, go check him out on his channel. And thank you, brother, for joining me talking Training Day. Denzel, one of my favorite movies, man. I love just sharing my favorite movies with y'all and then chopping it up. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you coming through, bro.
Yeah, man, for sure. Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure to rewatch this movie and talk about it. And yeah, for anybody who's interested, like I said, come over to my channel. I got movie reviews and all that jazz. And Rashad will be on soon enough for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the 4th installment in the Harry Potter franchise. Very different from the hood classics we're covering here on this channel. But I think that's part of what makes it really funny. Rashad has never seen these movies before, and he's watching them for the very first time. And I'll give you a spoiler. He hated the first 2 Harry Potters. So if you want to laugh about somebody not liking Harry Potter, definitely go check out those videos.
Oh, my God. You know, and I think I have a problem, too, man. I can never say Harry Potter without saying it with an accent, you know. Harry Potter, the Goblet of Fire, you know. I'm like, I can't say it without doing it with the accent. You know what I mean?
I feel you, dude. I wish I could do a good UK accent or a good British accent.
Well, especially if I'm drunk, I could really do it. Like, for some reason, when I'm drunk, I could do a really good Indian accent and a good Jamaican accent, and my UK is not too bad either.
All right, nice. We're gonna have to hear that someday.
Word. All right, y'all. So we about to sign out. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe to this channel as well if you haven't already. Rashad G Reviews, and that's it, and that's all. So peace and a bottle of hair grease. Y'all be easy.